that he had a larger role in the Clinton and the Russia probe.
Every day we learn something new, and it doesn't look good.
History is about to be made at Singapore's Capella Hotel. The luxury resort will play host to President Trump's June 12th summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
As a result of unprecedented obstruction, I've canceled the August recess. We have a lot of important work to do.
The media attacks against Melania Trump have hit a whole new low. One writer just implied the president is beating her.
To advance something so ridiculous like that, that's the reason that the American public does not trust the mainstream media.
We stand together for patriotism, and we proudly stand for our glorious nation under God.
From the mountains.
It's June 6, 2018, 74 years ago today, D-Day, and welcome to Studio F on this
with a little
Wednesday.
Jason Derulo.
Right.
You know who that is, Brian?
Yeah, Derulo, yeah.
Derulo.
And a lot of people want to get up and dance.
Go ahead.
But I like to quote Brett Eldridge when he says, "I never met a dance floor that did me any good." That's what I live on, right? So that's why I stand.
That's good advice for us. I'm still upset about this IHOP thing. IHOP is changing its name to IHOB, I-H-O-B. We're going to talk about it later in the show, but it is a sad day.
We don't know what the B stands for.
Bacon! That's what I think. But if they called it International House of Bacon, come on.
Right.
That would be gigantic.
Yeah,
For
that would be
everyone
huge.
except for pigs, because they would be not happy about the new demand.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy Wednesday. What a night last night.
Yeah, what a night it was. A wild primary night across America, and the winners in California already taking shots at each other.
Yeah, you got big-name Democrat and Trump-backed Republicans set for a showdown in November with maybe the balance of the House on the line.
Meanwhile, let's go out to Huntington Beach, California. Hillary Vaughn is reporting live with the results. Hey, Hillary.
Hey, Steve, Abby, and Brian. Democrats were hoping a blue wave would sweep 10 House seats last night and successfully lock Republicans out of a gubernatorial race in the general election in November, but they fell short. In a huge win for Republicans, Trump-backed Republican businessman John Cox was voters' number 2 pick to run the state in the governor's primary last night. He will face off against the Democratic favorite, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, who was hoping to take his boss's job in November. Newsom landed the top spot on the ballot headed into the fall, and in his remarks to supporters last night, he made it clear this race is not about what's happening in California. He has his sights set on D.C.
Voters will have a real choice this November between a governor who's going to stand up to Donald Trump and a foot soldier in his war on California. Mark my words, I've never backed down from a fight.
Cox already calling Newsom out for blaming President Trump for California's problems, pointing the finger at state Democrats that have had a monopoly on the leadership here for nearly a decade.
It wasn't Donald Trump who made California the highest tax state in the country. It was Gavin Newsom and the Democrats.
Democrats were also hoping to flip a House seat last night with California's jungle primary, letting the top 2 vote-getters head to the general. That means Dems had an opening to flip a seat if they could get 2 Democrats to finish in the top 2, but that didn't happen last night. 4 seats in Orange County that Democrats poured millions of dollars into. Democrats finished in second place and will have an uphill climb to take on Republicans in November. They were also targeting 2 Republican incumbent Congress Representatives Dana Rohrabacher and Mimi Walters. Both of them are progressing to the general election, but Senator Dianne Feinstein is breathing a big sigh of relief from D.C. because she made it through a very contested primary and is heading to the general election in November, but she wasn't in California last night. Steve, Abby, and Brian.
All right, reporting live from Huntington Beach, Hillary Vaughn, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Hillary.
So some good news for Republicans out there. They're going to have a Republican at the top of the ticket in California, unlike some past elections where there's been nobody to get out the vote for the lower folks down lower ticket.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of news, though, coming out of yesterday. Yep. 2 big bombshells coming out from the FBI. One of them, Andy McCabe, you remember him as the former head of the FBI, fired just days before he was supposed to retire back in March. Well, he is now asking for immunity ahead of congressional hearing on the handling of the Clinton case, wanting immunity in order for him to testify.
Gee, I wonder why would the number 2 guy at the FBI need immunity to reveal to a Senate committee what happened at the Department of Justice and the FBI? That doesn't look good for him.
And then Brian, his lawyer says if he doesn't get immunity, he's going to plead the 5th.
Right. So if he pleads the 5th, then he could get subpoenaed, and then we could that could be an issue. They just go down the line. Bottom line, they don't. The Judiciary Committee, and Grassley got the letter, would have to make that decision. Do we give him immunity because he's looking at a lot of legal trouble? Number one, and number 2, what would he say? So they do have these preliminary meetings before to say, if I can give you immunity, let me know what you're going to say. And it's one of the things I want to say is what you and James Comey cannot be telling telling the truth because you differ on something as vital as when did you find out about the Anthony Weiner emails on his laptop?
Well, here's the
and what about leaking to the Wall Street Journal on top of that?
Also that.
Here's the big question. Why would you give somebody who is a known liar a deal? Why would you give him immunity? I mean, I know the guy's a liar. Also, somebody else who's in the news, the other part of that blockbuster.
Well, Steve, I'll just stop you. Remember, they gave Sammy the Bull immunity, and he's a known liar and a murderer. So I'm just saying, sometimes you try to flip people because they might be saying something factual, and they got John Gotti, but Sammy the Bull ended up back in jail.
You know who's not going to want him to get immunity is James Comey. Can't imagine he's sleeping well these nights.
Yeah, no kidding. They've all got a story to tell, as does Peter Strzok. They would also like to hear from him. And now we know, according to Catherine Herridge, apparently she had spoken to a lawmaker up on Capitol Hill who was in one of those meetings yesterday and gave her the impression that Mr. Strzok had a much greater role in the mid-year exam, which was the code name for the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and also the Russia thing as well. Bill McGurn, who is a great writer for the Wall Street Journal, was with us, and he was talking about an hour ago about how all of these pieces fitting together make the FBI look very bad. Referred to it as, could this possibly be the FBI's Watergate? What did they know, and when did they know it? Listen to this.
The FBI and every federal agency is accountable ultimately to we the people acting through our elected representatives. This is a story with a cast of thousands, Christopher Steele, the different FBI agents, Andy McCabe, but we don't know how it started. And the FBI and DOJ has been very resistant in providing the documents that would let us know how and why this started. What it looks like is that the official start of the investigation, July 31st, was not really the start.
So we're going to get a lot more information, but the IG report, the drafts of which was given to the Department of Justice and FBI in mid-May, and we were supposed to get it yesterday. Michael Horowitz, who authored it, took a year to investigate yesterday. Now that's delayed, first to the 11th. Now we understand it's going to be 2 weeks from now.
18th
and the people fear, and I think it's justifiable, including the president, that somebody's watering down and redacting again, which means we're never going to get to the bottom of it. I just wish Robert Mueller was more curious about what Peter Strzok was doing, being that, and Lisa Page and McCabe, as well as James Comey to a degree, his good friend, as he is about the Trump Tower meeting, reportedly, because I think it all fits together, especially, Steve, as you mentioned, Peter Strzok headed up both the email investigation as well as what the Trump people may or may not have done with Russia.
Well, and maybe Mueller is looking into that. We don't know. There's still so many question marks. We don't know ultimately what's going to come out.
There's a lack of curiosity, I'll tell you that. And there's very few that you don't see, Peter Strzok running in. You don't see a lot of these players marching in and out of the Mueller grand jury.
We haven't heard any leaks from the Mueller team that we know of.
Well, speaking of players, though, Brian, yesterday was a big day at the White House. I'm sure you've all been following this closely. President Trump uninviting the Eagles team after the majority of them said they didn't want to go anyway. So the president says we are going to throw a birthday bash for America. It happened at 3 p.m. yesterday on the South Lawn. The president used it as an opportunity to talk about patriotism and what it means to this country. Take a listen.
We stand to honor our military and to honor our country, and to remember the fallen heroes who never made it back home. We stand to show our love for our fellow citizens and our magnificent Constitution. We stand together for freedom. We stand together for patriotism. and we proudly stand for our glorious nation under God.
Okay, so why did the president pull the plug on the invitation? Because apparently at the 11th hour, and yesterday Sarah Huckabee Sanders referred to what the Eagles were doing as a political stunt. Only 2 players were going to show up, along with the owner and the mascot, so they pulled the plug. The president never mentioned the Eagles, but clearly it's his message was, look, if you don't want to be there, you're not invited.
Yeah. How people could say, well, the president should have been bigger than that and still had it. No one was coming. He knew that Lurie, the owner of the Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, does not like him. Right. On the record, not liking him. Caught on tape saying that his administration is a disaster. And it looks like a plot. First, they wanted 80 background checks because everybody was coming. Then it was 70.
Can you imagine
the picture?
A handful. Right. Imagine the picture, though. Okay, here are the Super Bowl Eagles, the winners. And it's 2 guys.
I don't know.
It's 2 guys in the president.
I still say invite the ones that wanted to go and treat them like the head of state.
And even if the mascot kept on his costume. Yeah. It would be fantastic.
Maybe we just don't need to have these meetings anymore. This has been going on for a long time.
Look,
but if people don't want to come, let's not politicize patriotism. Let's not politicize sports.
But if you looked at the University of Alabama, how thrilled they were. If you look at the faces on the Astros, how thrilled they were. I mean, why let them not experience for them? For the players and their families.
It's such a great American tradition, and now for it to be so political and for people trying to make a statement.
That's why I say invite those that wanted to go.
Right, but actually 2 people?
Yeah, that's
out of 70.
Yeah, but give them the best experience of their life.
It's insulting. Well, they blew it.
Yeah.
7-11 now. Jillian's a big Eagles fan, and she joins us now.
And hasn't LeBron James already said that neither team will go to the White House
Golden
for the
State
finals?
Or Cleveland.
Right. So this
He's
is
already
just
set the record straight there.
Snowballing.
And Golden State didn't go last time.
I know. I rest my case. Let's get you some news right now. An illegal immigrant is sentenced to death for murdering a border agent. Gustavo Tijerina Sandoval shot and killed Javier Vega Jr. in 2014. He was fishing with his family when Sandoval and another man tried to rob him. Vega was a Marine Corps veteran and leaves behind a wife and children. Sandoval's accomplice is awaiting trial and also faces the death penalty. A White House contractor charged with attempted murder expected in court today. Secret Service agents busting Martese Edwards at a checkpoint as he headed to work. He had an outstanding warrant after he shot his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend. The victim was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Right now, it's unclear exactly what he was working on at the White House. Come to your TV if you're not there, because this pre-K grad stealing the show with her adorable dance moves. You have to see this. Oh my God, she's amazing. That's 5-year-old Aubrey Toby showing off her moves at the ceremony in North Carolina. You can see that she even does a little twirl with her diploma before walking off the stage. She's my favorite person of the day. Congrats to her.
Nice. And the pre-K diploma. I did not know they offered that.
She is meant for the limelight. How adorable. Thank you, Jillian.
Coming up, the IG, Inspector General's report on Hillary Clinton email, due out in about 10 days. But our next guest wants to know what's taken so long. Molly Hemingway on deck, coming up next.
And look who's in the green room, Newt Gingrich. He is joining us live.
Oh, look, I get a free book.
It's a high school prom, it's a Springsteen song, it's a ride in a Chevrolet. It's a man on the...
All right, the highly anticipated Inspector General report due out any day now as President Trump takes to Twitter wondering what about the delay? Why is this delay happening? Says this is we learned that ousted FBI Deputy Director Andy McCabe is asking for, get this, immunity in exchange for his testimony on the agency's handling of the Clinton email probe. Here to break it down and what it means, senior editor of The Federalist and Fox News contributor Molly Hemingway. Molly, does the delay bother you, and if so, why?
Well, it's interesting. We were told that the report would come out at the beginning of the year. Then we were given various dates in spring, now June, and we still don't really know when it is coming. How crazy are things at the Department of Justice that new things keep getting added to this probe and it keeps delaying finding out exactly what was happening with how the FBI handled the Clinton email probe, and apparently they're covering also part of the Trump probe.
I understand that the Department of Justice and the FBI both got drafts of this in mid-May. Now, we also understand that the final analysis is about 500 pages. Doesn't that seem huge to you?
Well, yes and no. If you recall, they already released the portion of the report dealing with Andrew McCabe, and that was just one of the times he leaked and lied about it. And that was quite a few pages. I don't remember exactly how many, but many dozens of pages. So I'm not sure 500 pages is altogether that long, given how many problems we've seen coming out of the Department of Justice and how many answers people are seeking about, again, how they handle politicized probes.
And part of the reason that eyebrows are raised is because some of the redactions that we've already witnessed make no sense, and that we're concerned that people are going to be gutting this under the auspices of national security or practices, and maybe put things on the sideline that'll keep America in the dark on what happened.
Right. I think people understand that there might need to be redactions when you're dealing with sensitive topics. But what the FBI and Department of Justice have done over the course of the last year is redact things time and time again that were not national security issues, but were things that were embarrassing to the FBI or DOJ. I know this is a very bad period for the FBI, but the best disinfectant is sunlight. And we all need to know what we were dealing with so we can make sure that we don't have these kinds of mishandling of politicized probes ever again. So I hope they don't redact too much.
I just also hope that Robert Mueller's at least curious about this final result, because if he truly wants to get to the bottom of things, when people like Lisa Page and Peter Strzok are involved with literal biases, and that they're involved in both investigations, that should be a player in what Mueller concludes. Molly, it's going to be interesting. We're supposed to get it in 2 weeks. I'll give you a day to digest it, then come back, okay?
It sounds great. Thanks.
All right, 500 pages shouldn't be hard. Meanwhile, straight ahead, this fallen hero honored during a special reception at the White House, and his touching story, an incredible one of patriotism. His father joins us next.
First Lady hosted a memorial reception at the White House honoring Gold Star families and their fallen hero family members. One of those honored, Private First Class Michael Metcalf. Michael was killed in a roadside bomb attack in Afghanistan on his very first mission en route to rescue fellow soldiers. Gold Star father C.J. Metcalf was at the reception on Monday and joins us right now to honor his son's memory. He joins us today from Cleveland, Ohio. C.J., good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell us about Monday.
Well, Kim and I, we went to Arlington in the morning time to visit the gravesite, and afterwards, then we went to the White House to experience that with other Gold Star families and to meet the president. It was absolutely wonderful.
I understand that it really impressed you that the president shook your hand twice, but particularly how he referred to you.
Oh, yes, it took everything I had to not have tears in my eyes over it. In fact, when I think about it, it's emotional to me.
Absolutely, because he shook your hand and then he said, "Enjoy your evening, Pops." Why was that so powerful?
Well, as my son always referred me as Pops in his letters and on the phone, and he would always say, you know, "Catch you later, Pops," and "See you later, Pops," and it meant a lot to me. And it just was something to hear the president say that as well.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your son.
Well, he was a wonderful boy to me, obviously. He loved football, he played baseball, he surfed, and his favorite sport was bull riding. He loved the bull ride. And he was an all-around good, honest son.
I understand he went into the military directly out of military school, right?
Shortly after, he came up to stay with me in Ohio. I lived in Florida most of his life until he was 15 and moved back to Ohio with his permission, of course, and then he came up in the summertime afterwards, and then he went back to Florida and went into the service after that.
And he loved the service.
Yes, he did. He was in the Young Men's Marines at 9 years old. He loved it. He went to the military academies. His mom set that up. He loved it. And then he went into the service afterwards and walked into the footsteps of my grandfather.
That is great. In fact, you have a tattoo on your shoulder, don't you?
Yes. It was one that my son picked out. He had wanted a tattoo from 15 years old, and I asked him to wait, and I asked him to promise me to wait, and he did. And I told him if he waited till he graduated school, I would go with him, and I would pay for it, and we'd get one together. And so that was what would happen. He picked it out. It was a cross with dog tags on it and his birth date. Yes.
It's so powerful. Tell us about his first mission.
Well, his letters that he wrote me, you know, he would say how, you know, how hard it was there. You know, it was not good sleeping arrangements, and it was difficult for him to go through all that. And then, from what I understand, you know, we couldn't talk every day. You know, as you reported earlier, that he was out to rescue some other soldiers, and that's when the roadside bomb got him as well.
On his very first mission.
First time out. First time out. But he was a brave boy. We used to always fight and wrestle, and, you know, he never had much fear for that kind of stuff. He had a good heart, and he loved to be there for somebody.
Yeah. I know you and your son Michael exchanged letters throughout his career. And there was a letter to your ex-wife in his pocket that she cherishes to this day. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, he was carrying that that letter in his pocket, and no one knew about it until after the fact, after he had died, and it was retrieved, and of course it had his blood on it and everything from the explosion, and was given back to his mother. And her mother, of course, obviously cherishes it.
Indeed. Casey, after the Gold Star family event at the White House, you and your ex-wife went to Arlington to visit his grave.
Yes.
What did you say to your son?
Well, we always say, son, we miss you, we love you, and we're proud of you. And we looked at each other and we said, you know, no matter our differences, we had a great son, a son we're proud of, and we hope that he is happy looking down on us, that we're together looking at his gravesite.
C.J. Metcalf, we thank you very much for remembering your son and telling us what it was like at the White House.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pops. Right back.
Morning, this massive black bear making himself right at home.
You got a woman spotting this wild animal sitting just like a human being, or most human beings with scoliosis, at a picnic table in her backyard.
This real-life Yogi Bear stayed for about 20 minutes before wandering off. This was no bear near you. It was in Alaska.
By the way, if we put more benches in the woods, do you think bears would use them?
I don't think the bear is comfortable. Just saying.
I think he needs a lunch mate. Someone to sit across from him to eat lunch with.
He's waiting for food. Yeah, absolutely.
You know that voice.
It's
Fox
Papa Bear.
News contributor, former Speaker of the House and 2012 GOP presidential candidate, and author of the new book, Trump's America. It is out now. Speaker, always good to have you with us.
It's great to be with you guys.
All right, first your reaction, the double bombshell that we learned late in the hours yesterday. Andy McCabe wants immunity now, and you also have Peter Strzok, who we are learning played a much larger role in the Clinton probe and the Russia probe. What is the bigger picture to all of this?
The scale of corruption is beyond imagining. I mean, first of all, if you were McCabe, you'd want immunity too, because he's going to go to jail. And if you're the number 2 guy in the FBI, going to jail is really a bad thing.
Why do you think he's going to jail?
Because he broke the law. Consistently, they have an Inspector General's report that says, here are all the different places he broke the law.
If you don't tell the truth to the FBI, we see this over and over again, you're going to jail. What if you're the FBI and you don't tell the truth?
Well, they're very strict about it because it's really high value for their agents to have believability in court.
Mm-hmm.
And so, McCabe is in deep trouble, which means Comey is in deep trouble. And in the case of Strzok, the most interesting single tweet or text message said, the president personally wants to be briefed on all of this. And what Strzok and Page are going to lead to is Valerie Jarrett and Barack Obama.
Because it sounds like what we're starting to hear is this FBI operation was being essentially run by somebody at the Department of Justice.
Who was running it on behalf of the President of the United States.
And this informant, according to the Washington Post today, they are having trouble at the Washington Post lining up these stories because this informant was evidently put into action, how you want to say informant or spy, before the actual probe was listed as started. So why was the informant talking to Carter Page before the actual probe was launched? So the Washington Post can't figure that out, Newt. Can you?
Well, my favorite moment, we were in Laurel one night, and she played Jim Clapper, former director of national intelligence, saying, "I really hate to use the word spy." And I thought to myself, he was the guy in charge of every spy the United States has in the world.
Right.
And it tells you, though, how totally deranged this is getting. These guys were all breaking the law. They were all counting on Hillary winning. They were all sure she would cover it up. And it was a straight-out deal. We won't put you in jail. You won't put us in jail.
Cozy.
So there's another story out there that I think impacts all Americans about the economy, the good job numbers that came in on Friday. But we are now learning, and this is the first time as far as we've been keeping track of the economy, that there are more job openings, Speaker, than there are people that are unemployed. 6.7 million openings to 6.35 million workers that are unemployed. What does that tell you about where we are?
Well, two things. First of all, it tells you that there's going to be a red wave this fall, not a blue wave. Because when you have the lowest black unemployment in history, it all begins to have an impact. And people begin to look around and go, wait a second, I don't care what the news media is saying. Trump's succeeding at a practical level. Second, it tells you, I think, that this is the moment to do welfare reform, to encourage people to get off of dependency and go find work.
Before November. You mean do it now?
Do it now. You have an opportunity here where you have so many new jobs being created. You want to encourage people, as Mary Mayhew did when she was commissioner in Maine, where they had a dramatic reform, very simple. If you're able-bodied and you have no children and you're getting food stamps, you must go to work. 13 out of the 14,000 people in Maine left food stamps, went to work full-time. Their incomes went up, and they began to be part of this great escalator that is the American system.
Well, that's what Mitch McConnell is telling Congress, canceling the August recess. Really curious on your thoughts about that. Should he have done it a long time ago?
Well, I think I wish Senator McConnell had at least kept him in for weekends, but I'm delighted that he is keeping him in. My prediction is that Chuck Schumer will have about 4 days of this and cave totally. This is all nonsense.
Because they were all doing this as delay to deny the president, and when it comes to the nominees, that would allow his to be fully staffed, which has been it's unprecedented.
Well, the Democrats have been shockingly unpatriotic in deliberately keeping all sorts of jobs vacant, which slows down the American government, weakens America all around the world. I mean, as you know, your dad's an ambassador, my wife's an ambassador.
How long were you guys delayed?
It was months. And we have other friends for whom it has been unconscionably long.
But it has just seemed petty.
It is petty. No, it's a deliberate strategy. Their goal was to so screw up the Trump administration that it couldn't function. And I think they're probably in a state of shock because Trump just reached past them and was successful despite them. But I think it was a deliberate goal on their part.
All right. Your thoughts on Bill Clinton. We all watched that Today Show interview 2 days ago. He is still trying to apologize for that horrendous answer. Here's the latest.
When I saw the interview, I thought that because they had to, distill it. And it looked like I was saying I didn't apologize and I had no intention to. And I was mad at me. It wasn't my finest hour. That was a very painful thing that happened 20 years ago, and I apologize to my family, to Monica Lewinsky and her family, to the American people. I meant it then, I meant it now. I've had to live with the consequences every day since. And I still believe this Me Too movement is long overdue.
Newt, when he was president, you were speaker.
Yeah, and look, and the whole fight was over his having committed perjury, which is a felony, and actually a case about whether or not he intimidated an employee, a female employee, when he was governor. I feel sorry for Bill Clinton. I mean,
he wants us to feel sorry for him.
But I do feel sorry for him. I mean, this is a guy who rose to the highest office in America, who first of all, has to now be with Hillary after her second defeat. And that whole arrangement didn't quite work out the way it should have from their standpoint. He is going to spend the rest of his life in this cloud and doesn't seem to be able to get to closure and just move on.
Didn't he create that cloud for him, though? Isn't he to blame for all that?
I'm not defending him. I'm just saying when you watch him, you're watching somebody who clearly is so much less than he wanted to be.
And by the way, he looks like he's struggling at 71 years old, sadly. Trump's America, the truth about the nation's great comeback. What surprises you 18 months in that made you write this book about a comeback? I know you like him and you were pulling for him, but what made you say this comeback is real?
I think that the remarkable thing, and a great contrast with Bill Clinton, is that Trump, despite all the opposition, despite all the hostility, despite 94% of the elite media coverage being negative, Trump has just ground his way forward. He has got the economy moving better than it has been since Ronald Reagan. If the numbers that the Federal Reserve is talking about come in this quarter at 4.8%, that'll be a Reagan level that we have not seen in I think 30 years.
That explains why he's getting all this good publicity then.
But it's amazing to watch. Here's a guy who has, I think, successfully maneuvered with North Korea and has successfully cut taxes, successfully deregulated, and you know, the New York Times and the Washington Post would close down before they admitted it.
Well, it's all part of Trump's America. Brand new book came out yesterday. Newt Gingrich, we thank you very much.
It's a great read, Speaker. Always good to have you with us.
you.
And I'll see you
All right.
on Outnumbered at noon.
All right.
Jillian, what do you have for us?
All right, I've got a couple of headlines, so let's get you caught up, starting with this. If you plan on crossing the border, prepare to get your picture taken. The Department of Homeland Security will start testing new facial recognition software starting in August. It's called the Vehicle Face System and will be installed at the southern tip of Texas. Cameras will scan photos of people crossing over the border and compare them to a government database of images from passports, visas, and other documents. A Democratic candidate for Congress shunned by his own party, telling him he is, quote, too brown to win his primary.
By far, you're the best candidate. You have the most experience. You're an engineer. You're a lawyer. You have government experience. You've worked with the FBI. But you know what? The name Omar Siddiqui will not work in Orange County. You need to change your name.
Omar Siddiqui was running to unseat incumbent Republican Dana Rohrabacher. He said those words came straight from the mouths of Democratic delegates. Ask and you shall receive. A woman in Texas putting out this doormat saying, quote, please hide packages from my husband. So that's exactly what her Amazon delivery driver did. This security footage showing him read the mat, then go around the corner to hide a package. The woman posting it online saying, shout out to Amazon for always being loyal and hiding my packages. That can't be real, though, right? The husband has to see the doormat.
But here's the problem.
So your broadcast.
If he does a really good job, they might not be able to find it if they've hidden it.
That's true.
Meanwhile, we have hidden Janice Dean. She's no longer here in the studio. She is outside.
Look at my friends who came to see us. What are you guys all here for?
We love Fox and Friends.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Let's take a look at the maps real quick. It's a beautiful day here in New York City. There's your forecast, 71 here in New York. We could see some strong storms across the central U.S. It's going to be hot, hot, hot across the south. And we are looking at cooler temperatures across the northern Rockies. What are your names? What are your names?
Harrison Adams.
And?
Olivia Adams.
Where are you from?
Atlanta.
Nicely done, everybody. Give yourselves a hand of applause. Yes. Look at these crowds. It's amazing. They're here for all of us.
A beauty.
Wow, they're getting bigger every day,
Janice, they're there for you.
Thank you.
All right, the media attacks against Melania Trump hitting an all-new low. One writer just made a horrific implication about the president's relationship with his wife. That is all coming up.
Plus, President Trump is set to sign a big health care bill today to help our vets. Todd Pyro is having breakfast with friends near West Point with reaction. Today, President Trump, honoring a campaign promise, taking care of our nation's heroes, is expected to sign a landmark bill giving veterans more health care choices, which they need.
Fox and Friends correspondent Todd Pyro is live at Andy's restaurant in Highland Falls, New York, just down the block from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point to get reaction. Todd, what's going on?
Hey, Abby. Hey, Steve. And Brian, this is just a great place to be. If you get a chance to come up to West Point, you need to come up. And the reason we are here on such an historic day, June 6th, D-Day, is because we are talking with veterans about veterans issues. We're going to start with John. John's in the Air Force. John, we thank you for your service. And you say this VA Mission Act is so important. Why do you say that?
It needs to emphasize that the veterans come first, and they really need to clean up the act inside of the whole aspect of getting rid of people that don't do their mission.
Understood. I want to talk about some issues that have been in the news. The president and the Philadelphia Eagles have had some issues. Let's leave it at that. What is your response to that brouhaha?
I'm a Giant fan. I'm all for what Trump did.
Okay.
And I'm an anti-Eagle person, so I'm a little biased.
Understood. All right, we're going to go down to Gary. Gary is a veteran of the Marine Corps. Gary, thank you for your service. And you said you use the VA about once a year to go get checked out. And you say you don't have any problems with the VA up here. Second time we've heard that this morning. So good work up here, VA. Yes. But you say when you hear stories of your fellow veterans throughout the country having bad service, having bad wait times, it really hurts you. Why?
Well, because I wouldn't want to be in their shoes if to wait for a long period of time to see someone. I'm sure that it'll be straightened out sooner or later, hopefully. And does it happen frequently? I really don't know. It doesn't happen here, okay? It doesn't happen here, so I can't say it's something that has to be looked at over here. Maybe in other places. Right. Other places, yes, it probably has to be looked at.
Now, even though you're wearing that great flag shirt, you are not thrilled with what the president did with regard to the Eagles. Why?
To put it nicely, I thought it was foolish, to tell you the truth, okay. What he did. Okay.
All right, I'm going to leave it there, but I'm also going to mention he's a Jets fan. So he doesn't have the same Giants animus. I want to go to Jack now. Jack, a pretty serious topic to talk about. You say whatever happens with the various VA mission bills or anything veterans-wise, you say mental health needs to be a focus. Why?
Because 23 veterans kill themselves on a daily basis. Wounds like that are very difficult to see, and so they can be difficult to treat, difficult to diagnose. And if 23 guys are ending their lives, 23 men and women are losing their lives every day over it, we got to spend the money, we got to fix it.
All right, and obviously football has been a big topic of discussion here, but I think I can speak for everybody here. Go Army,
beat Navy.
There you go. I knew I was going to get that, even though the game is months away.
But they're always thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you so much, Todd.
All right. Meanwhile, the mainstream media attacks against Melania Trump have apparently hit a new low. One writer for Rolling Stone just made a horrific implication about the president's relationship with Melania. A closer look straight ahead.
And we've been telling you about the pardoned Navy sailor suing the Obama administration. Kristen Sausiere's attorney says the Inspector General report on Hillary's emails will prove their case. He joins us live to explain, coming up.
Welcome back. Well, some in the media continue to push conspiracy theories about First Lady Melania Trump's whereabouts. A senior writer for Rolling Stone suggesting that she is abused and in hiding, tweeting this: "I wish that I didn't suspect that the prolonged, poorly explained public absence of Melania Trump could be about concealing abuse. I wish that it was a ludicrous prospect. I wish that the POTUS wasn't a man with a history of abusing women, including those to whom he is married." So have we officially hit rock bottom? Let's ask Emily Jahinsky with the Washington Examiner. Emily, great to have you on. Unfortunately, though, this story, I mean, it's conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. This is not someone with an egg on their face on Twitter. This is a senior writer for the Rolling Stones. What is going on?
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is a senior writer for a publication that purports to take journalism very seriously. And he says in his tweet he wishes it weren't such a ludicrous prospect. And I have good news for him, because it is a ludicrous prospect, right? For a journalist to float this, the implication of his tweet is that the president is committing domestic violence. And for a journalist to float something as explosive and as serious as that without any hard substantiating evidence is irresponsible at best, and it's sad that this is what we've come to right now.
Yeah, I mean, Melania didn't ask for any of this. She's just trying to recover from a surgery. What I don't understand, Emily, and maybe you can help explain this, is I've long argued that there has not been enough attention on Melania Trump from the time they got into the White House. She's got an incredible story to tell. She's passionate about great initiatives, opioids. She's talked about bowling. She's not anywhere on magazine covers. And all of a sudden, now that she has not been seen since the surgery, the media cannot get enough of Melania Trump. The irony here.
Yeah, and I wonder if some of that actually springs from the fact that she is fairly well liked. She does really well in polling. She's a very likable first lady. People are interested in her, and I think there was some legitimate concern about whether she was okay, because as we know, we're recovering from a surgery. There weren't a lot of details about the surgery, so I think people were, to some extent, legitimately concerned. I don't think all of these conspiracy theories surfaced in good faith, and I think the one we just discussed is a good example of that.
Well, the conspiracy theories continue. This is from David Frum, the senior editor of The Atlantic. He says, suppose President Trump punched the First Lady in the White House. Federal property equals federal jurisdiction, then ordered the Secret Service to conceal the assault. POTUS has Article 2 authority over Secret Service. Is that obstruction under Sekulow and Dowd? Apparently no. Emily, have we officially hit rock bottom here?
It really feels like it, and I don't really understand why we have to be engaging in trafficking in these hypotheticals, which are explosive and are very serious, and I don't really understand why we've come to that at this point.
Yeah. Give her a break. You know what? Melania's doing a great job, and let her recover as she will needs to. Emily, good to have you with us this morning.
Thanks, Abby.
All right, coming up on the show, thought the Iran nuclear deal couldn't get any worse. Well, think again. The bombshell new report out just moments ago. That is up next. Plus, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk. We've got another huge hour of Fox and Friends on this Wednesday morning still to come.